Well, as of right now, all of the posts and all of the fencing for the new high fence deer pen, the posts and the fencing are done. At this moment, all that's left to do is build some gates, put a little bit of bracing in, cut the tops off the posts where needed, and then get the high fence deer pen inspected. I would end up using somewhere around 250 fence posts and somewhere around 3,000 linear feet of the 8-foot high fence fencing that I'm required to use for the new deer pen. And after working on this side of the mountain for the last year and a half, I can't even stand up on flat ground. At the beginning of this week, I still had a few posts I had to get in the ground and about another full roll of fencing that I had to roll out and stretch. And after using my excavator to drill all of the holes for the fencing, it only took a few minutes to get these last 8 or 10 fence post holes drilled out and set and ready to stretch wire. And while it feels like I've been working on the high fence deer pen project for half my life, the truth is I've only been setting posts and stretching fence for maybe the last couple of months. I was kind of concerned as to how this corner right here would terminate, and I'm going to have to move a little bit of dirt around to make sure there's no gaps under the bottom of the fence, but all in all, it turned out perfect. It seems like everything always happens at the same time, but in the middle of the fencing project, I still need to put up enough food for 19 deer until next summer, which usually ends up being somewhere around 500 bales. At this exact moment, the only money that we have ever made off our fallow deer was when we made that first batch of jerky. And I'm now old enough where I have to think about projects in a different way. And this is the first project that I've actually thought to myself, how long is it going to take to recoup the investment that it took to build this high fence deer pen? The pen ended up being somewhere between 10 and 11 acres, and it cost a small fortune to get it built. But now with this new deer pen, we have the ability to feed our deer with food that grows here on our land. We started 3 years ago with 5 fallow deer, and at this moment we have 19 deer. And with our 19 deer, I'm starting to see that they go through food a lot faster than they did when there was half as many. I believe that the future is only getting brighter around the fallow deer farming industry, and I believe that building this high fence deer pen is a major step in the right direction for us here at Red Poppy Ranch to take the fallow deer farming more serious than we've been able to thus far. Now, as much as I'd love to tell you that all of the trees have been cut down that need to be cut down within the high fence deer pen, there's still probably half the deer pen that I haven't touched yet. But even though the fencing is up over the next few years, I'll get in there and thin those trees so again the grass can grow and provide the food that the fallow deer need. Because the deer pen is now nearly finished, all future thinning of the trees will be done by hand, and because I have the trail that goes around the outside of the deer pen, the plan is to use as much of that wood for future firewood as I possibly can. For some reason, these fallow deer bucks love to cover my GoPro in their saliva. Before I can start stacking the new hay from this year, I first have to consolidate what's left from last year. From this point on, the hay and how we feed our deer is going to be a bigger and bigger issue, especially as I get older and I'm less interested in moving around 30,000 pounds of hay. Reed and his best buddy Colin wanted to help me stack hay for a while and earn some extra money so we can go to the driving range and hit some more golf balls. But Reed and Colin are finding out that stacking hay is not the funnest thing to do when it's 95 degrees outside. As much as I like to take pride in hard physical work, stacking 300 to 500 bales of 2-string alfalfa gets old pretty quick. If I could figure out how to feed the deer round bales, which weigh somewhere around 1,000 pounds, I would only need 30 bales. Because of how little flat ground we have around here, I've got to figure out how to store hay in such a way where I can use equipment to stack it and potentially feed the animals instead of my back. These are the final fencing staples in the high fence deer pen. Now that I've got all of the fencing up, I need to measure all of the openings for gates. So that is about 340, maybe 350 bales of hay, and I've still got another 60 I got to go pick up. About 100, maybe 120 of these bales were left over from last year. And the new 300 bales should get me through, should be enough feed to get me through until about May, maybe June of next year. The deer are now going through more feed than they ever have before. We're averaging at least 2 bales a day. I could probably even throw a third one out there and they'd eat it. There's a bunch of babies that are still nursing, so they need to have all the food that they can eat. That's why I'm anxious to get them up there in that new high fence deer pen. But I'm worn out from stacking this hay. This is going to be the thing. I've said this before, but this is going to be the thing that determines how long I get to be in the fallow deer business. At some point, I'm going to have to figure out a better way to do this. I still have 60 more bales I have to run down there and pick up. I'm going to do that in the morning. I'm trying to muster up the energy to build a couple of gates, but I'm going to try something different on these gates than on the past gates, because hog panels, pig panels, people call them different things, but they're basically galvanized panels. But on the new big deer pen, only one, maybe 2 of those gates is going to get used on a regular basis. So rather than spending probably $200 to $300 on those hog panels, I'm going to try and do something a little bit different this time. Everything I do as far as my gates, as far as the pins are concerned, everything has to meet the standard for the state of Idaho. And I think the way that I think the way I want to build these gates, I think it will. There's a slight possibility that these gates may not be heavy enough to meet the inspector's standard. So I hope I don't get to do this one twice, but I'm going to try and do this in a way where it saves me a little bit of money. It's basically materials that I have here. Rather than having to go to town and buy more materials, I can use some of the materials that I have here, and I still think it's going to end up being a good product. So. So rather than using the galvanized hog panels to build the gates out of, I'm actually going to use the fencing that I already have and weld it to the frame of the gate. And if it turns out that the inspector doesn't like the fencing, or if he thinks it's not heavy duty enough, I can cut it off with the angle grinder and weld the hog panels in as needed. But most of these gates are not going to get open but maybe once or twice a year. It is that time of year, and we've got cows all around us looking for food and water. So normally I would weld hog panels in instead of using this fencing, but again, because these gates aren't going to be used very often, I feel like using the fencing versus the hog panels is not only going to save me some money, but it should hold up just fine as long as I weld it in good. That wasn't bad. There you go.
I'm actually trying. Oh, there you go, Colin.
Good job, Colin.
I'm trying. Oh.
Do it again. There's another ball right there.
Colin, are you keeping your arms?
Get underneath it a little bit lower. Maybe bend over a tiny bit more. There you go. You're starting to get under it. There you go. That's what that club does. That club pops the ball up. On our next upcoming video, it should be the conclusion of the high fence deer pen, at least as far as the fencing is concerned, and if I really push it, maybe I can get the inspection done as well. There's still a little bit left to do with the gates, there's still some bracing I need to put in, but we are just about there. I wanted to say thank you guys for checking in on us here at Red Poppy Ranch. Again, it means the world to us that you would spend your time seeing what we're doing. And from all of us here at Red Poppy Ranch, we will see you again real soon.